I'd like to call the January 22nd City of Gardner Planning Commission meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I would like to start a roll call to my right.
Commissioner Combs present.
Commissioner Souza present.
Commissioner Ham present.
Commissioner Juniman present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Commissioner Cooper is present
I'm
online.
My first time with Zoom. Commissioner
And
Cooper.
Commissioner Mader is also present. Is there a chance that we could get the audio view? I understand it's been a little bit since we've done Zoom. I'm sorry, the video view. But the audio sounds great. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it does.
And maybe it's for purposes of sharing the staff reports, which is fine if we can't see the other commissioners. I'm good with seeing your guys' faces, but more important to see the staff reports. So don't want to hold you up.
Are you not able to see the commissioners?
No.
No.
Can you guys see us?
No, we can't see them.
I see a box that says Gardner Planning with what looks like a battery that's half expired. Battery symbol.
That's the Gardner Edgerton.
Little light up in the corner. But and don't want to delay the meeting, you know, as long as I guess the main thing is you guys can hear both me and Commissioner Cooper is really the main thing.
All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item for either the Planning Commission or from the floor, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Standing approval of the minutes is written for December 19th, 2023. Are there any items any members of the commission would like removed from the consent agenda? No. Are there any items any member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Juniman and a second by Commissioner Combs. Sorry. Okay, can I get yes, a first and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we have 5-1 of the motion.
Who opposed? I thought it was all in favor.
5-0. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she said yes, she wanted to.
So she's abstaining, so it's
Abstaining.
yes, no, abstaining.
Okay, abstaining. Okay, thank you. Okay,
Oh,
so
somebody abstained?
We thought you did.
we thought you did.
No, I said yes. That's a good quality check on the audio.
Okay, so
In favor of the motion.
in favor.
My vote is yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Mader.
Commissioner
Okay.
Cooper, did you vote yes or abstain?
I voted yes.
Okay.
Okay, so motion carries 6-0. All right, moving on. See, our first item on the agenda for tonight is the Gardner Pet Lodge 23-303-01 rezoning site plan and conditional use permit continued from the December 19th, 2023, located approximately 1,000 feet west of the intersection of 199th Street and Gardner Road. Do we want to start with a staff presentation?
So while staff is coming up, Dave is passing out a citizen email that came in. We didn't get it included in the packet, so that's being circulated for you all. For anyone who's wondering at home who this handsome gentleman in the blue pullover is, that's Dave who's handing out this email. So you all, once you've listened to staff report, you can take a chance to read this, but try not to divide your attention too much. Thanks.
Okay.
And Spencer, I may mention.
Can that then be read for the record, Dave, since neither Stacy or I, nor I should say Commissioner Cooper nor I are there to hear or
Yeah,
see
so-
that?
So
We
I
don't have
I wanted to mention to you, I just forwarded an email to you, both of you that has this content. So if you do have access to your email, it is on your email, or it should be there for you as well. So you may be able to get that. There are actually 2 emails that I forwarded to you.
Okay, I'll just say though that with my my internet, when I try and do too many things at one time, it gets choppy. And hey, I can now see you guys. Hey, Bob. Hey, staff. Hey, everybody. I can now see you guys. I'll try and take a look at that. What you said. I did see that you sent that, Dave. So
So,
thank you.
Commissioners Cooper and Mater, if we get to deliberation time and you have not been able to open and read this email, staff can read it into the record for you. But it is, they are fairly long, so in the interest of that, the preferences.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the commissioners ready for a presentation?
Yes, please.
All right, fantastic. Again, this is item 1, permit 23-303-01, a rezoning, site plan, and conditional use permit. And as Maya Ham mentioned earlier, this is a continued item from the December 2023 Plan Commission meeting. The requested rezoning will bring the property pretty much in line with our city land development code. Currently, the property is zoned RUR. Even though it's annexed into the city, again, it maintains its county zoning classification until a public hearing is heard, and which is where we're at today for the rezoning. The RUR district is similar to the requested rezoning to the city agricultural district. The pet boarding facility is allowed under the agricultural district as a conditional use permit. The staff also felt the petitioner needed to submit a site plan as part of the request for the conditional use permit. Again, we'd like to remind the commissioners that the conditional use permit request is very similar to a plan development, and the request, if granted, will only allow what is presented to the commission today. The petitioner will only be allowed to deviate from this request only if they bring in another petition before you. Subject property is located, again, approximately 1,000 feet west of the Gardner Road and 199th Street intersection, is bound by R1 properties to the east and north, and by RUR County Zone District properties to the west and south. The lot is approximately 10 acres and surrounded by similar sized parcels. And there's the screenshot of the actual zoning. The green is RUR, and the light yellow is the R1 single family. One of the things that was a concern that was mentioned by the commission that the petitioner addressed with their engineer was that the proposed site some concern was with the runoff. And this slide depicts an infiltration basin that is to be built alongside the west side of the building. The additional time, again, allowed the applicant's engineer to address this runoff issue. Stormwater management plan was submitted and approved by the City of Gardner's Public Works Department. Also, to ensure minimum disruptions to the neighbors, additional conditions are listed in the recommended motion. Staff findings that the proposed use complies with the Gardner Land Development Code. It also complies with the Gardner Comprehensive Plan and also the Voluntary Consent Annexation Agreement. And the conditional use permit review criteria has been addressed by the applicant. Staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend approval of 23-303-01, a rezoning, conditional use permit, and site plan for animal care at 29852 West 199th Street with the conditions provided in the recommended motion.
All right, thank you. If the applicant is here and would like to speak, I'll entertain that now.
Thank you, and good to see you again.
Yes, hello. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Jason Carmen, 29852 West 199th Street.
Thank you.
Okay. So thanks again for letting me come back in, and Bob, thanks for the introduction here again on kind of where we're at right now. As we discussed in our last session, I believe there's still a definite need here for this type of facility within Gardner, and our proposed location is ideally suited for this type of operation. The proximity and distance that this facility will be in comparison to neighboring structures is positioned such that the business should not be a nuisance to any neighboring properties. We have provided basically an acoustically insulated facility. All pets will be indoors overnight, just as a reminder from last meeting. Also, we've detailed out acoustical permeance to each residence and have also kind of given some similar setups in neighboring communities that we've kind of modeled off of on this, and also shown that they have had no nuisances in their area. Just kind of as a reference point here for in town, the only dog lodging facility in town here is at Gardner Veterinary Clinic, which they're basically capable of holding 80 dogs, which is 2 times as many as what we're proposing here. And if I draw that 1,000-foot radius around their facility, they have approximately 100 private residences within that area. If I do the same for my proposed location, I have 8. That's just kind of showing that the proposed location doesn't really get a whole lot better than what we're proposing here if we want to be within the city. I've taken feedback from the neighbor in the previous meetings regarding light pollution from vehicles coming up and down the drive path. To accommodate this valid concern, I will ensure that drop-off and pickup times are between standard operating hours of 8 and 5 p.m. I believe we've also addressed the noted concern regarding runoff and ensuring appropriate environmental management. Bob just showed that. There was also a comment here in the last session regarding viability of this area accommodating a commercial business. Like Bob showed, this neighborhood is half in country, half voluntarily annexed into the city recently. There have been commercial businesses operating on direct neighboring plots of land for 20 years, utilizing conditional use permits and having employees and customer visits regularly. I just want to be clear that it would not be a special case nor an anomaly for commercial business to operate in this area. To be able to accommodate the requirements for this type of operation requires significant capital investment for my family. I do request that this is thoughtfully considered if proposing shortened duration recommendations, as the risks associated with shortened duration will greatly affect business viability. And just as a kind of closing comment here, CUPs are made available for citizens for exactly this type of request, and my land type complies with the requirements of housing this type of business. I hope that the current plan and proposed method of operation shows the thoughtfulness we have put in place to ensure that we will be compliant holder of this permit, and appreciate your continued consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. At this time, I will go ahead and open the floor to a public hearing. If I could get a motion to open the public hearing.
Hank, really quick,
Oh.
so it's not gonna be a full public hearing, but, so for everyone that's here, the public hearing did close at the last meeting. But the commission has decided to allow some public comment tonight, so if you wanna get up and add on to anything from the last meeting, that's fine. Everything that's been put into the record at the last meeting is still being considered, so the good news is our commissioners are very bright. They haven't forgotten what was said last month. You're welcome to come up, hopefully, I'm looking at you guys. But if you want to say more or add on based on what's new from tonight, you're welcome to.
All right, so we will now open the public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Individuals are allotted 3 minutes, or an individual representing a group is allotted 7 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm Mary Friend. I'm at 19880 South Gardner Road. I have 2 pieces of property that border the property that is wanting to put in a commercial dog business. I'm not really, I thought he had mentioned there were businesses that were ran in the area. I know of no business that's ever been ran on that subdivision. It's called Friends and Neighbors Subdivision. It is single-family dwelling. There are estate lots, and bordering to his north is Bergdorf's Tuscan Farms. He is adamantly not for it either, and the fact that it could hurt the value of our properties. I don't know anyone that wants a dog business in their backyard in the subdivision. I hope that you pay a lot of attention to detail and consider all people impacted by this, be it the noise, the nuisance, and the lights and the dogs that bark. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
I noticed, my name is Ron Friend. I live at 19880 South Gardner Road and also own property adjoining that where you don't live on. I got a state lot that butts right up to that. But what I'm wondering, I seen the plans that you had in a screening, and at the time, I think I counted 3 trees, 3 red cedars, I think it was. Do you have the plans you could show? I may be wrong. I may have read that wrong, but I think it said it showed the screening would be these trees that would be to the east of the building.
In between, yeah,
Three of
between
them?
the building or parking area and the property.
Well, the reason I'm asking on the screening on that is a car backs out and it's, heading back up the lane going out of there, which the lane's gonna be next to my property that I am planning on selling to somebody. I probably won't build on it now. I live on the corner. But the lights will shine out across and back into the backside of my son's house. Car lights, if it's this time of year, I don't know what your hours are, but if it's dark. And that was a concern of mine on the screening on that. And also your blacktop road, did that stay in as blacktop?
Yes.
Okay. And what else was there? Oh, I know I'm running out of time. I didn't know I was going to get to talk tonight. But the screening was one thing, and the lighting. And what about lighting on the building for night light? Is there how bright the lights will be on the building, floodlights for the parking lot and stuff like that? Because right now, where that building's at, the plans was the people looking at my property would build on that piece of property there, which would be maybe 200 feet from that building. They wanted to get off the road because of noise and pull into the backside of that property to build there. But thank you for your information that you can give me, and thank you all very much. But
Thank you.
I don't think that I like a business if either one of you people would like a dog kennel in your subdivision within 200 feet of your house. So, as you, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else that would like to come forward?
Hi, my name is Frank Bannister. I live at 19815 South Gardner Road, which would be pretty much almost directly east of the proposed pet lodge, dog kennel, whatever you want to call it. And I haven't met these nice folks. I'm sorry. This is my first time seeing you. I do know some of your friends. They're my neighbors to the north. I'm real good friends with Matt and Tracy Hamilton. I sent a letter to each one of y'all and explaining that. The technical part of this, I'm not going to delve into because it looks like that the owners have done their due diligence code-wise and with all that. I grew up on a farm. I used to coon hunt. I used to coyote hunt. On a still night, you can hear two hounds barking for as far as a mile. Pretty easy. You can if this facility had 10 dogs or 20 dogs and they were exercising outside and a deer runs by that property and it's 5 o'clock in the evening and dark, those dogs are going to bark for a long time. Now, I'm usually in my house when it's dark, so that may not affect me. I'm thinking of that subdivision directly north, all those brand new houses. I was over yesterday picking up some wood in a wood pile about 200 yards from where this facility will be, and I saw no trees directly east of where this place is. And I saw very little barrier to the north, to that subdivision. And what I put in the letter to each one of y'all, to the Planning Commission and to the City Council, that if there is no noise issue with this facility, as far as my property is concerned, it would be a non-issue. I really wouldn't care. It's close enough that I can see it, but it's far enough away that, if it's not a noise issue, I probably wouldn't have a problem with, not like Ron and Mary Friend, who has property that backs up right to it and want to sell a lot. But there's going to be noise. Hamilton's dog, they have two of them, and they have one dog that barks all day long. They're not home, they're at school. I'm retired, I'm at home, and I hear that dog all day long. But I love dogs, so it really doesn't bother me. But 15 dogs or 5 dogs, I think it could be a social issue. And the facility is not built yet, and the dogs aren't there, so it's yet to be determined what the problem would be. So I said in the letter to you folks that if noise is not an issue, I would have no problem with it personally. But I just anticipate, knowing how animals act and being around animals all my life, it will be hard to corral the noise from multiple dogs. So I would hate for that to be a problem for these folks. I'm sure they're very nice folks. Everybody out there gets along. This is a subdivision of lots. Of larger lots, but it is a subdivision. The second concern is, do we really need to start allowing commercial operations in close quarters? So I personally don't think so. If somebody is building, dog kennels, dog beds or mattresses inside their house and selling them on the internet, that's one thing. But to have an exterior commercial facility is a whole nother issue. So those are some thoughts I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing as though there is no one else coming forward, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, I don't need to since it wasn't a real, okay. All right. Okay, so at this time, are there any questions for the staff or the applicant from any of the commissioners? I will start at my right.
Chair Ham, I'm just going to ask if Commissioner Cooper and Commissioner Mader were able to see or view the email that I sent to you with the letter summary. Essentially, Mr. Bannister was speaking to the points that are in that letter. So I just wanted to make sure, did you all get a chance to see that, or did you receive it?
I did.
I received.
Okay.
I do have maybe a question, just a point of clarity from the last discussion, uniquely related to CUPs. Not necessarily, well, the question is if there is a complaint, so if there was to move forward and there were complaints, could you please remind me of what the procedure would be from there?
So any use is subject to public nuisance laws, other laws of the community as well. So depending on the type of complaint and what was going on, the first thing would probably be involving our code enforcement officer of the police department to go investigate the complaint to see what's going on, what's been happening there. That's whether there was a conditional use permit or not a conditional use permit. There's always that venue that's available to people to utilize. In this particular case, that would probably be where the complaint would first come up, whether it's noise, light, whatever the issue may be. That would be looked at. If the complaint is substantiated, there's issues with violating those laws, the public nuisance laws and other laws of the community, but if it's found that it's a substantial enough issue that it's violating the conditional use permit or calls into question whether that conditional use should be allowed to continue to operate there, then it would come back before the Planning Commission for potential revocation. So it would go back through a process to you at that point in time. So there's kind of two layers here. The conditional use permit is the second layer. When you have a use like this, if it's approved, they're subject to meeting all the conditions in the conditional use permit that are stipulated. If they're found in violation of that or not operating within those realms, it could be brought back before you to reconsider that and potentially pull that conditional use permit. So that's an option that is there as well. That is part of, if you look at the condition number 6 here, we were recommending a 5-year period. If you'll recall, we've recommended these periods before where we've also done administrative reviews on an annual basis. If that is something that you would like to see happen or added to the condition, that is something that you can deliberate and determine amongst the Planning Commission members as part of your recommendation. So that's all open to discussion.
Thank you for, thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Sosa?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Juniman?
Were the trees that Mr. Friend spoke about that were added on the site plan, were those a change from the original, or were those there in that what we saw last month?
That, I believe that's the original from last month, correct? Yeah, because the applicant was proposing screening between the building and the property line. I do know from the last meeting that the commission was concerned also about potentially screening along the drive itself.
Correct.
So again, this is another one where if the condition, if you all see fit that you want to adjust that or change that to include screening along the drive and want to have that done, we can incorporate that into a condition as well, or beefing up the screening from what you see on that proposal.
Right, because that's what I was thinking. If I was reading the the condition that we have it listed, it's like, you know, that complies. But I was thinking it was going to be more along the property boundary to protect from driving lights for that home that was next to it. So I would be in support of, you know, if we were to move forward with this, to beef up that, to provide more of a visual barrier along the majority of that property line there to the east.
Okay. Commissioner Cooper? Commissioner Cooper, do you have any questions?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I think I agree with Commissioner Juniman about the screening. My other concern is the 5-year conditional use. And I would like, Dave, if you could go over again, what would be involved if there were problems on the property and there was a revocation involved? Can you go over that? I haven't had the luxury of that experience at this point.
Correct. So what you would have in a situation like this is if this is approved as a 5-year period and we do not incorporate an administrative review. So I'm gonna leave the condition just the way it's worded for you, okay? So if you look at that condition, you would be entertaining a 5-year conditional use permit that is still subject to any complaints that may be received from adjacent property owners or others related to the general rules and regulations of the city, okay, number one, but then also the conditions of the permit itself. So any of the added conditions would also be subject to review. If it's found that the complaints are happening frequently enough or they're substantial enough to cause a revocation process to be generated, the staff would bring the conditional use permit back to you. A public hearing would be held before the Planning Commission to reconsider the conditional use permit. The public would have the opportunity to speak to it, the applicant would have the opportunity to speak to it, and you would be again making a recommendation to the City Council in regard to revocation of that permit.
So what's the, like how many complaints is the bright line for that? What's the?
I think it would depend on the severity of the complaints and if they're found to be substantial or not. So for instance, if there was something having to do with animal care or something in that effect, you might see a very quick one complaint, and if it's substantiated, that could bring revocation pretty quick. If it's something where there is, I will say, general noise complaint, with those kinds of complaints, there's usually a period granted to the applicant to mitigate that. So the code enforcement officer, I believe, provides the applicant routinely a 10-day period to try to mitigate that and take care of that. And then it would be more of if we're getting repetitive complaints more so than it is the actual complaint, because we still would have to follow those public nuisance procedures or the legal procedures for some of those items. So it just depends on what the complaint is and how severe it is found to be.
And who decides whether it's a severe complaint or not?
It would likely be the code enforcement official, as well as planning staff would probably have to go out, especially if it's a violation to one of the conditions.
Okay.
It's basically an administrative process at that point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Mader?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go back and look at, once again, our Gardner Municipal Code, agricultural, rural, residential. These districts and other districts are to promote open space and rural preservation. I mentioned this at the last meeting. This does none of that. This is by a conditional use permit within our process. It allows for a very intense use of land, which does not fit with the character of the residential area that truly abuts directly to the north. I hope all the commissioners did a site visit today. That will abut directly to the north. And sure, there might be a timing period placed in there, and it all becomes subjective to a person's opinion of what is a nuisance and what is not. And I don't think it's fair for the landowner to be allowed to say, hey, yeah, we're gonna accept you right now because it's not very dense at this time with residential. And then 5 years from now, oh wow, we've got lots of residential and a C3 use, which that is what a large boarding doghouse is. That's very intense and dense. And that's why it's only allowed in certain areas of town. that's not fair to them to say, hey, you guys got to pick up sticks now, because all of a sudden, we're getting more and more complaints. Now you guys got to leave. Also, one thing that I have an issue with on the site plan here, from our last meeting, we asked to show how it's going to be managed, the waste from the dogs. What do you get? What's the mitigation plan? And within the motion, it's well, provided on the next round. Well, we asked for it this round, provided on the next round. And also we asked for, and actually not asked, the planning commission, as part of city code, if you're going to have that type of intensity of use, you need to have a paved drive all the way to the location of the business. This is a business. And it's being asked within, let me see, I think it's, hold on, sit down. Bear with me, guys. I hate being off site. I think it's number 3 of the notes. Property owner requests that the existing driveway and proposed driveway extension to be allowed to use gravel other than a paved surface. So there's already deviation from planning commission and land development code. I just feel like we are entertaining something that it doesn't fit. Is it needed? Yes. Does it fit here? No. There's too many deviations from my perspective being requested. This is a very intense use. And now at this time, sure, it looks very, very rural. I don't disagree. It looks very rural, but that property that literally backs right up to the applicants, it abuts right there at the north-south intersection. You can't deny that eventually there is going to be residential right there in the backyard. And I haven't seen enough as far as plans that make this conditional use permit fit in what, again, I'm going to repeat from our own code, that it says, of course, my thing, yeah, promote open space and rural preservation. This does not. And with that said, if I were to make a motion right now, I would make a motion to deny, because I do not see how this fits. That's that. And also, I know this is just kind of on the side. Bob, you made a mention that it works with the annexation agreement with the city of Gardner. I don't know if all the commissioners are familiar with how that works. I don't know if you want to give a quick rundown of, you said it fits, but I don't know if all of the commissioners are, and those that are listening, public and online, how does that fit when you are adding a business to what you're annexed in as part of your agreement, how you can add in a business, and then therefore I believe you don't pay any taxes on it, which I know that has nothing to do with planning commission. We're just looking at land use, and that's where I'm at the point of I can't recommend approval of this. I'm recommending denial because it does not fit with the land use. So maybe it's a moot point and we just move on, but that's where I'm at. Perhaps if there were more details about mitigation for the waste and biohazards coming off of a very large dog boarding operation. This is commercial. It would make the city a lot of money, but if I'm thinking correct, under the annexation agreement, there would be no taxation, anything back to the city of Gardner. But then again, that's not why we're here. We're just here to look about land. And that's why, again, I go back to it's promote open space and rural preservation, and this does not. So with that, I will stand down on my comments and leave at, if you're looking for a motion, I will recommend denial. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mader. As far as my 2 cents, Commissioner Mader, I feel, made a very good point about the item number 3 on the map. with the gravel service. I don't know if that's from the last meeting and if that hadn't been updated with coming this month, that's mitigated
Correct.
because of
So,
the recommended motion.
On the exhibit, just so everybody's aware, the exhibit is what was given to us as
Okay.
part of the application process. What staff is recommending with condition number 1 is that all these surfaces will be paved. So whatever note is on that plan, staff is in agreement with what has been stated there and believes that the condition, if approved or recommended for approval, should include that all those surfaces are paved. Okay, even though the request was made as part of the application, staff's recommendation is that it all be paved in line with what our code requirements are. So that's the difference there. So it's the same, the exhibit is the same exhibit that the applicant has provided. It was that is what was requested by them. Staff is not in agreement with that request. So that's why our condition is written the way it is there.
Okay, I have another question, and I'm quite sure this is for the applicant, regarding the light coming from the building and the light pollution feeding over to other properties, especially at night.
Yeah, there won't be any big bright lights that are coming out from it. Ron, actually, because I know you addressed that, it'll be no different than what you've got in your Quonset. There, be up in the soffit type of lights, right? Just that are just illuminated in the evening, right? So nothing that should be causing any issues at any of the houses.
Okay, and then Mr. Bannister talked about the noise concern about not seeing any trees. I think another community member said that there's only 3 there right now, and then addressing that on the side. I know like one side is rural, but the other side is single-family dwellings. So I know that's in the recommended motion of having the noise barrier and things like that.
Yeah.
But what are you planning on doing, going from the drive all the way up?
Yeah, so is there still a question kind of on what's going to be around the facility
Yes.
itself? Okay, so
Yeah.
around the facility itself, and I think it's shown on the site plan there's pretty dense trees up to the north of the proposed facility, which would be in between the kennel area and Tuscan Farms area. So yeah, you can see it right there. So we'll be, I can't point at it, but you can see kind of where that creek runs there, and there's a couple tree lines that are running. And then there's actually another 3rd tree line that runs up north before we get off of our property area on there. To the west of the facility, there's dense tree lines there as well too, so you won't be able to see anything. To the south, there's already tree lines sitting there. So where those 3 trees that are shown in the site plan, that's really just to that east area right there. So that's a bit open. So we're saying, hey, we'll put some trees in here just to provide some visual blockage on it. Okay. And then the biggest thing on the drive path area on there, as gathered from the last meeting, was really surrounding light pollution that was going to come from vehicles coming in and out. And so the primary addressing of that was, hey, we'll just allow during standard business operating hours, right? Because we want to make sure that there's not lights shining in somebody's window or something like that. Now, if there's a request to add into the proposal that we have certain trees or a barrier or something like that on that drive, that's fine. I already have a drive that goes past that that house right now, so our drive actually extends past that right now. The part that we're adding onto it is actually out past, so if you're looking at this plan, you can see my area. I've got an outbuilding sitting there. You can see the driveway that's currently there. The new area will be added on to the end of that existing drive, right? And then everything will be paved like Bob and Dave talked about. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chair Ham, I will also just mention on the lighting issue, again, that is something that you can stipulate within the conditions if you see fit as a commission. So that is something where you could talk to that. Our code regulates that lighting, or we can use the code to do that. So there's cutoff fixtures, things like that. No light is allowed to spill over to the other property lines. From the standpoint of the building lighting and that, The traffic lighting, that's where the screening aspect would come into play on that. Again, that is something that if you see fit as a commission that you want to go that direction, that is a condition that could be added to this. The other item I want to speak to Commissioner Mader's item on the annexation part. So Commissioner Mader is right. Much of the annexation agreements that are there have nothing to do with what's before you today. The item that Bob is really referring to there is that there is a stipulation in the annexation agreement that when development occurs or when there's further development of a property, that is when the request for a city zoning district has to come into play, because currently they are still zoned as a county zoning district. They are still RUR, which is Johnson County by state law. When you annex, you retain your county zoning until either the city proactively attempts to rezone the property, or in these annexation agreements, we have a clause that talks to when you come to us with a development proposal for the property that takes it beyond what is existing there, that's when we request that you do a rezoning to the city district, which would be agricultural.
Okay, so let me get this straight.
With a conditional use permit. That's the question I had.
That's what I
because
wanna-
It's a conditional use permit.
So let me, but let me qualify it so that you're aware, Commissioner Mader. There's actually two actions here. There's a rezoning action and a conditional use permit action. So it's two separate things at this point. The rezoning would be from the county RUR to city ag, okay? So there's a recommendation that needs to come about there. Then the second step is whatever your recommendation is on the CUP. You can elect to approve the rezoning to the city district, recommend that, okay, and still recommend differently on the CUP, okay? So that is a possibility here too. So that's one of the things to be aware of. It's not a singular motion here.
Okay, so let me understand this. So technically, they're part of what they are is Johnson County.
They are in the city limits of
Gardner, but they fall under Johnson County regulations.
Right. So what happens is, by state law, which cities don't like this state statute, but under state law, when a voluntary petition occurs from a property owner, or any annexation occurs from a property owner into the city, which that action took place, the property retains its county zoning. Okay? That's by state statute. We have there is no working around that. Okay? When we get a voluntary petition, like this property was, and like many properties along 199th Street were, each of these property owners generally signed or brought forward voluntary annexation petitions that had a series of conditions that are inside of those annexation petitions, much of which has nothing to do with what Planning Commission focuses on. But the one item that is in there is one that refers to the zoning of the property. And when a property owner comes forward and wants to add to the use of its property in that manner, which it could be, for instance, if somebody wanted to develop these into single-family lots, we would be doing the same thing. They would have to rezone to a city district and then move forward with the next step, whether that's a development plan or a site plan or a plat or however it works. So this situation is very similar, because the view is here you're adding something new to the property that now triggers in that condition that you would have to get the rezoning to a city district, which in this case is the ag district. And Commissioner Mader is right about this. After that, this is a use that is allowed only with a conditional use permit. Okay, so that's where this is triggering this. Okay, the house doesn't matter about the residential use, doesn't matter about typical agricultural uses that are permitted by right in the agricultural district. It's really about this added use being a conditional use. It is not a use that is allowed by right in the agricultural district. It is only allowed with the conditional use
Okay, so trying to wrap my head around this. So all these people buy their homes and the Friend subdivision is inside of Gardner city limits.
I'm gonna speculate here. These
By
homes,
voluntary,
yeah,
by
these,
voluntary
yeah, by
annexation. I mean,
voluntary
By voluntary
annexation,
annexation.
because
Yeah.
the homes that are on these properties were likely built before coming into the city.
Okay, so these people that built their homes, they built their homes with the intention of not having to deal with commercial use property.
We don't know.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
absolutely. That's why they moved there.
But except there's CUP.
you don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know.
and there's CUPs.
You don't.
Yeah.
We know it.
So what I will tell you, under the county RUR zoning, dog kennels are allowed also as a conditional use permit, not as a use outright. So there would be a very similar county process if this was out in the county and being proposed. The only difference here in the proposal is that we have to get to a city zoning district before we get to a conditional use permit.
But then if we do the city zoning, then what Commissioner Mader was talking about as far as rural, what did you say, rural?
Right, what Commissioner Mader was reading from, and I believe, and Commissioner Mader, if I misspeak here, interrupt me.
Nope.
I believe she's
Yep.
reading from the purpose and intent statement for the district. Okay, so when she was reading that part about preserving open space and things like that, that is the intent statement that's associated with the agricultural district within our zoning regulations, within our land development
Correct.
code.
Yeah. Table 5.1 of the comprehensive plan and zoning districts that's what the intent is. That's what the intent is. And whereas the use being looked at typically falls within a C3, Dave, keep me on this one, because of the intensity of the use of the facility. That's why it would be best suited for a C3 district, which is the highest use of commercial district. However, within our land and zoning code, when we did this code back in 2014, we allowed it as a potential within the conditional use permit process, which, back to your point, Dave, this is two separate actions tonight. The rezoning and then the conditional use permit process. I don't want to steal staff's thunder.
Yeah,
So
no, you're
I'll go back on
good.
mute.
So what I'll clarify with, when Commissioner Mader is speaking to the C3 district in our land development code, that is the first district that a boarding facility like this, a kennel facility, shows up as a use by right, okay, as a permitted use outright. You would, if this was proposed in a C3 district, you would still see it as a site plan, okay? But the use would be allowed. So you'd be looking at it under the parameters of the site plan side. However, the LDC was written, our land development code at the time, it was also found that it was consistent to allow it in an agricultural area zone, okay? If it's a conditional use and the conditions that are approved with it allow that to occur in a way that the planning commission or the city felt was compatible with surrounding land uses, character of the neighborhood, all those things that you're looking at. Does that help?
I think I'm just unsure if, and I don't know if this is under my purview or not, to say whether or not one person taking actions is incumbent on placing that burden on others.
That's what we're here to discuss
That's
as a
what-
commission.
So, and
take
one
a-
thing to,
I mean, to take a look at the use and see if it's compatible, and look at the land development code and look at the comprehensive plan and see if, you know, what is this a good fit, and make that recommendation, right? We're not that, we're recommending this to the governing body.
So I'm going to clarify further, and Spencer and I are talking about this right now. In the land use code, in the land development code, I want to clarify we have 3 different types of kennels that we allow. Okay, there's an animal care kennel, which is seen as an accessory type use. It's usually associated with things like veterinarian clinics. They might kennel somebody over on a short-term basis. Okay. And that may be just because, again, they got to keep a dog overnight for observation or something to that effect, okay? Then there's a general animal care, and there is also the larger animal care side of this, okay? The general and the larger are conditional uses in the agricultural. The smaller one is a permitted use, the smaller kennel size. So that is allowed in agricultural as a permitted, but this one does not qualify as that smaller size. I just want to make sure that's clear. If you look at it, the general animal care activity is a permitted use in our commercial districts, straightforward. The large animal care is actually a conditional use in the C3 and a permitted in the M1 district.
Which this falls under none of those.
So what this falls under is it's a conditional use under the agriculture, but coming at it as the lawyer is that if it's a conditional use in both C3 and agriculture, the idea was for a large kennel, it was always going to be coming before a planning commission and a governing body for consideration. So there's never necessarily outside of the M1 industrial, it's never a matter of right. They always want you all talking about, because a large animal kennel is something you need to consider. So that would be my guess from the intent, and as we're saying tonight, we don't guess too much on intent.
Right.
I have a bit of an ability to educate a guess on how the code is written. That would be my assumption there.
Okay, I'm just thinking about what Mr. Bannister said about, you know, it is rural, gets quiet, and a couple of dogs chasing after a squirrel or a deer is noisy, but 40 plus what this kennel can hold, they all see the same deer. That's a lot of noise. Okay, I'll entertain a motion if there's no further discussion on this. If we want, in saying that,
I'll make a motion for denial of the application for the rezone.
I second that.
okay, all right, Commissioner Mader, if you'd like to make a motion.
For denial of the rezone from,
Yes.
hold on, let me get my report out. From county rural to Gardner ag.
Okay, second. I'm sorry, did you second that, Commissioner Coe? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Yes, okay. First for a motion by Commissioner Mader to deny and a second by Commissioner Combs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstain or any opposing? Okay, motion is carried for denial of
Rezoning.
the rezoning of the pet kennel located on 199th Street.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the north side of 199th. Do I need to amend that for
No,
record keeping purposes or?
no, that's fine as
Is
is. So we have the motion to recommend denial to
Yes.
the governing body for the rezoning.
Okay,
You all also need to make a
I'm-
recommendation to the governing body for the conditional use permit, because we're the fact-finding body for them to make. So even though we've recommended denial of the rezoning, which is dispositive of the conditional use, we still have to give the governing body your formal recommendation on the conditional use if they were to
Okay.
overrule your rezoning recommendation.
okay,
And
okay.
I'll
Then
entertain a
I'll
motion
also
for-
I'll make a motion then to also deny the conditional use permit and site plan that after review of application 23-303-01, a conditional use permit and the associated site plan for 9.59 acres located on the north side of 199th Street, approximately 1,300 feet west of Gardner Road, with a tax ID within staff report from the rural district to ag district, and the staff report dated January 18, 2024. The Planning Commission recommends that the governing body deny the application with the following potential conditions as listed within the staff report.
Yeah, at this point, Commissioner Mader, you do not necessarily need those conditions if you're recommending
Oh,
denial.
I didn't think so. It's been a long time since one of these is crossed.
So I'm gonna clarify, the motion is for denial of the conditional use permit at
Correct.
this location for application 23-303-01, and the recommendation is denial for that. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
Yes, and I'll second. I'll take a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to deny the CUP made by Commissioner Mader with a second by Commissioner Combs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Mader and Commissioner Cooper, your votes?
Nay.
You're in
Oh,
support.
wait. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm doing a yay on the denial.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay.
This stuff's so
and you
tricky when it's over.
Opposed, okay. So we have 5 in favor and 1 opposed. Motion carries 5 to 1.
Okay, so as indicated, and I want to make sure everybody in the audience is aware of this, this will go before the City Council on February 19th for their consideration. So again, the Planning Commission in its role as a recommending body, both on the rezoning and the conditional use permit, the City Council is the decision maker on this, so it'll be before them on February 19th at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
All right, next item on the agenda is Clare Crossing 23-304-08, rezoning preliminary development plan and preliminary plat. This is a public hearing located at the southeast corner of the intersection of 175th Street and Clare Road. Do we have a staff presentation?
We do. Again, this is item 2, permit 23-304-08, rezoning, preliminary development plan, and a preliminary plat. The applicant is requesting approval of the rezoning, preliminary development plan, preliminary plat for a commercial and multifamily residential development located at the southeast intersection of 175th Street and Clare Road. Property was annexed into the city in 2023 and is now requesting a change from the county RUR district to the city of Gardner CP-3 Plan Commercial, RP3 Plan Garden Department, and RP5 Plan Department House districts with associated preliminary development plan and preliminary plat. Again, the subject property is located at the southeast intersection of 175th and Clare, approximately 2,200 feet east of the I-35 interchange. The lot area is approximately 58 acres, is currently vacant with no existing structures or improved public access. City sewer and electric service are available, with Water One providing the water service to the site. There is also a large electric transmission line running along the east side of the subject property. Again, here's the current zoning. The property is surrounded by RUR county rural zoning along the northeast and south portions of the property. And then directly to the west is the Grotto development that is zoned R1 and also C3. Comprehensive plan, and more specifically the I-35 and 175th Street interchange sub-area plan adopted by the city in 2018 identifies this area as regional commercial. And the request for CP3 commercial zoning in this location conforms with the City of Gardner Comprehensive Plan and the sub-area plan. The proposed RP3 and RP5 zoning provides for a good transition from the commercial to the north and the less intensive uses to the south. This request will need additional approval from both the Johnson County Airport Authority and the Board of County Commissioners. And per Public Works, the south 80-foot wide future right-of-way from the preliminary development plan will need to be revised to align with West 178th Street. Staff recommends the Plan Commission recommend approval of petition 23-304-08, a rezoning preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for a mixed-use commercial and residential development located at the southeast intersection of 175th Street and Clare Road with the conditions provided in the recommended motion.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here and wish to make a comment or speak? No?
Not unless needed.
Okay, all right. So I'll open it for commissioner discussion. Commissioner Combs?
Yeah, I have maybe a few points of clarity. But in the review criteria, the staff analysis zoning map amendment, number 2, it identifies that some uses in the CP3 district may need to be limited and associated development qualities mitigated. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
So there's a couple things that happen here. Understand that this is also in the airport review area by Johnson County Airport. So it is possible that some of these uses could be limited or mitigated through this. So for instance, they do not like things like wet detention close to the airport, those kinds of things. It's adjunct to our process, but separate from our process. They're going to have to go to the airport county for this, the airport commission, and eventually the Board of County Commissioners. So that's part of what influences that wording there, is just understand that. We have also had some situations where some of those CP3 uses or that we have limited those in the past through your actions as well. At this point, we're not suggesting any, but it is a possibility through that airport review and elsewhere that we may see some of those things. I will say that the city's intent is that the CP3 district, when we go to those kinds of zonings, the C3 and the CP3 districts, our preference is sales tax generators and commercial activities, even though there are some other activities that are allowed in the CP3 area that are not that way. So, for instance, churches and other kinds of things. So,
Perfectly fine. Thank you for that clarity.
All right, Commissioner Sosa?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Ginnivan?
For the applicant, for the RP3 along Clare Road, what was the plan for that, you think? Is that garden apartments, or do you have with the lots, the way they were laid out, I was just kind of curious what the plan was.
Darren Dodge with Brownstone Through Development, Topeka, Kansas. Yeah, duplexes, single-family homes, that kind of stuff was right there along Clear Road with an apartment complex there to the east of that.
Okay, so you would be planning some sort of apartment complex across from those? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, and then the detention basin is going to be a dry basin. Is that correct?
Do you plan? Let the engineer go out.
Buck Driggs with Driggs Design Group. Originally, we had talked about kind of joining those two bodies of water and making a nice little park plaza area that had a walking trail and everything around it. As you know, we ran into some issues regarding the use of the easement there and what we can and can't do. We're still kind of trying to resolve what that really means. We've gotten some conflicting answers as far as what usages are allowed within that easement. But right now, we're probably just using dry detention, which will mean we'll have to maintain it, mow it, grass will be there. Won't be quite as elaborate and fancy as what it might have been previously, but that's kind of where we're at.
and I will say when final development plans are developed, that's usually when we get clarifications on those kinds of aspects. So
For us, it doesn't matter. It just needs to hold water
Right.
when it rains.
Yep.
After that, it can drain, and so from an engineering standpoint, that's all it needs to do. The rest of it was just aesthetics.
Makes sense. And then just a comment, like, it's good to see development on the east side of Clear Road for the city. I know Olathe is creeping over that way more and more, it seems like, so it's good to see this property for the city again.
All right, Commissioner Cooper?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, Commissioner Maynard?
The only comment I had, and I think it's a really important comment to make note of, 175th, I don't know how many of you guys have been driving around that area, especially with the Grotto development to the south. It's busy. 175th is almost dangerous, in my opinion. I don't like to drive it. So I was very happy to see within the staff report that within the preliminary plat item number C, we're allowing for 175th Street improvements to be done at the beginning of the project. So is this a good discussion topic to help reassure the commission and potential citizens that that is going to happen? That is truly part of the plan, that 175th is not going to be a scary, right now I think there's one turn lane kind of in the middle of the road, and unless you live kind of in a rural county area, not everybody knows that you can go around people that are using the turn lane. And I'm hoping that as part of the development that is truly being taken into consideration. And as far as traffic management, I'm assuming that's driving that, those traffic studies driving that, how quick those improvements would get done on 175th.
Yeah, so there's several aspects to this. There will be improvements that will be necessary from basically day one because there'll be safety improvements that have to be done. That could be decel lanes for right turns, things like that. It could be adjustments to the left lane, turning lanes, things like that. So that's one aspect of this. In regard to the traffic, 175th Street is receiving more and more traffic. We are aware also of development proposals in Olathe, which is directly to the north of this, right across 175th Street. The actual improvement of that roadway, if we were talking about full improvement of the roadway, is likely to occur later because it's going to take a little bit of a joint project. The city limits of Gardner at the middle of the right-of-way. So while we have some jurisdictional ability to do improvements on the south half of the road, they really need to be coordinated with Olathe so that both sides of the road are taken care of at the same time. So we're coordinating closely with their staff in regard to the development proposals that they're seeing. Timing's going to come down to the development timing, obviously, but also the ability to then do a project there that's going to probably be a multi-jurisdictional project. That's one of the, I'll say for that, it is one of the factors that's difficult in just giving you a clear answer. If this was like Clare Road where it's all in the city, I could say, yeah, we can get it on a capital improvement project.
Right, it's split.
But we're gonna have to work with the city of Olathe, and because of the nature of the 175th and Clare intersection, we may be involving the county as well, because as you move north, there's some county right-of-way and stuff like that in there. So it's going to be a multi-jurisdictional project. Each of the developments will have to contribute to the overall improvement of those roads. So,
agreed. Yeah. Thanks, Dave, for answering that. I just know, just me personally, that road, it's a little scary. It's getting busy.
Yep.
So
it's on everybody's
glad
minds.
to know everyone's talking. As long as all the jurisdictions are talking, that's a good thing. Good start. Thank you.
May I ask a little point of clarity there, and I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself. Will the involvement, if of course the county and then obviously city of Olathe need to be involved, would their lack of expeditious decision making impact the construction and therefore the improvements that might be needed not happen as timely as they're being indicated in the writing here?
So I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is that in the cases of the development as it comes online, because they are required to do the traffic studies that they do, both in Olathe and with us, the developers will have to initially put in things, like I said, the safety improvements. So that's gonna be coordinated very well. Where this issue comes in is because of the volume of traffic that is also being generated all along 175th Street, you know, that's on there. Commissioner Mader is right. The traffic's picking up, plus the increase in trucking traffic and everything else that's going on that road. When we get to the idea of, oh, this now has to become a 4-lane road, or it has to become a 6-lane road, or whatever it is at that point, that's when the joint project has to occur. So I'm anticipating usually these studies from the developers are feeding into both cities' considerations. So we take their studies, we look at what's projected from their standpoint. We're talking with Olathe, they're sharing information with us to try to determine the optimum time that a larger project may be necessary. Again, it's a projection methodology, so is it going to correspond from day one when the development occurs? Likely not, but it shouldn't delay the development necessarily, because the safety improvements that are necessary as part of the commitments of these plans will be put in place as part of the development occurring. So
if I understood that correct, I'm sorry, David.
yeah, I know it's long-winded.
No, and I think I got it. I just want to make sure that we, you know, the developer is not delayed in their process of involving other parties into making a decision, or more importantly, that, you know, the area is not developed and those improvements, although they might be identified as needed to be made, aren't made because of all of the attributes you just outlined.
I am not anticipating that. Okay, I'm not anticipating that it'll be a delay to the development. Having said that, you know, right now there's no anticipation that it'll delay the development. But again, if these numbers are coming back in these various studies, and if Olathe keeps progressing the way they are, it could expedite a project and move it up in a timeline versus if we're trying to pace it out with development. Again, that all comes back down to how do you pay for these road improvements.
And ultimately, I think that's really where I'm at, right? Is at some point someone's going to say, I'm not responsible for it. And that someone could be the county, it could be the city of Olathe, it could be us, whatever. And this is the only issue that stood out to me on this topic because of past situations, not only on 175th, but even 199th, with road improvements that may need to be there. Everyone knows they need to be there, but unfortunately, you got to find the money to pay.
So the routine process when it comes to road funding, for instance, in a situation like this, is we would go to Mark, who distributes the funds for KDOT in this area, right? So generally those applications, those processes where we bring projects forward, when they're a joint project, it's usually brought forward by both cities at the same time because they're seeing impacts to the development in each location. So it's not an uncooperative situation. It's usually one where both entities are being impacted by the traffic situation. So I would say in this case, what's helpful, and Commissioner Mader hit it on the head on this, the communication that's occurring at the staff levels currently as we're sharing information about these various development projects and everything is feeding into those decisions and how that comes about. So Public Works is very engaged in this. Public Works over in Olathe is very engaged in this. And then at the Johnson County level, they're aware of it. They don't have as much skin in the game in this particular area, although they can be helpful in a joint application to get the funding maybe even moved up. So,
well, thank you for that. And I'll just close by saying I agree with Commissioner Gentleman. It's great to see some commercial development in the area. So thank you for the explanation, David.
Okay, and I concur with everyone else. I think it's great. So that being said, I will entertain a motion.
and I will suggest that whoever makes the motion, if you're going to be reiterating this, you do not necessarily have to read word for word each of the conditions. You can cite conditions 1 through, is it 4 on this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can make
You
that.
can also identify the parcel IDs as stated in the
those are a
I do
lot of
like
numbers.
not that much. Okay. All right. After review of application 23-304-08, rezoning and associated preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for Clear Crossing, parcel IDs as noted in the staff report, and the staff report dated January 18th, 2024. Planning Commission recommends the governing body approve the applications as proposed, provided the following conditions are met. Items 1 through 4 as listed in the staff report.
Second.
All right, I will go with a second by Mr. Souza. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Yes.
opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
This item will also go to the city council on Monday, February 19th at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
All right, is there any, I didn't see any discussion items on the agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Juniman with a second by Commissioner Sosa. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0.